Hi, everybody. I'm here with James Gardner, and we're going to be talking about AI and talent acquisition. This is going to be an intro to quite a few of the topics that we're going to cover in a little bit more detail in a couple of follow-up recordings. So, James, first of all, here's a quick introduction to you in case people don't know you.
Yeah, hi, Adam. A little intro to myself. So I have spent the last too many years now that I care to remember in working in talent and talent acquisition. I've helped scaling tech businesses scale and grow very quickly by redefining talent acquisition for them and really enabling talent to become a true lever of growth as opposed to a process and a cost that it's sometimes viewed as. But I think as per our previous discussions, I think one of the biggest impacts that we have at the moment is the onset of AI and the talent and talent acquisition function and what that means for ourselves as individuals and professionals within that function, but also what it means for the wider organization.
Yes, great. Now, you've been doing a lot of thinking, writing, learning about this particular subject. Give us some of the most important things that you have been discovering and you've been putting into practice and the things that you've been doing. And yeah, give us the kind of headlines first.
Well, let's look at it from this point of view. Let's start with an observation first, because I think a lot of the conversation about AI and talent at the moment is happening at a real surface level, is a way of putting it. We discuss a lot around tools, we discuss around prompts, we're asking whether AI is going to replace recruiters. And I think, yes, that's an understandable question, but I don't think they're the most important ones. In essence, I think AI is fundamentally changing, is a better approach of what talent teams exist to do. It's changing where value is created, and it's changing where value is created inside that function. And as a result of that, AI isn't replacing humans. It's replacing process. It's replacing systems. It's replacing that engine. What it's not replacing is human judgment. It's not replacing relationships. It's not replacing context, and it's not replacing accountability, I think, is one of the most important factors. So, I mean, what ultimately it's doing is removing friction. For years, talent teams have carried a heavy operational admin load, and we viewed a great recruiter as someone who can operate at speed, can source at speed, etc., etc. There's a lot of, obviously, that's that manual sourcing, screening, repetitive content creation, interview coordination, feedback chasing, all of the bits in talent teams' roles that actually don't provide a positive outcome. And what we're looking to do, and what AI enables us to do, is if you look at that cost efficiency ratio, it's just making us far more cost efficient, because it enables the recruiter, and in my humble opinion, to focus on what's important, which is actually building a relationship, influencing and aiding the candidates that we're approaching to really understand why this role should be suitable for them. I think in a lot of cases, especially in larger enterprise organizations, TAs become a process. There's no engagement, there's no discussion. So as a result of that, there's no influencing behavior on the decision making that's based both internally and externally. So as a result, TA has lost a bit of influence.
Yeah, okay. So I think to summarize what I think you've said here is it's about a redistribution of the tasks that individual talent acquisition contributors can focus on. If we can eliminate some of those which are the less value added, and we can point our teams towards the more value added where value is created around the relationship building, the things that require human judgment and emotional intelligence, then it's not about like reducing the team size, but it is about being able to just be much more effective in the contribution towards the organization's goals.
Yeah, well, I mean, what it does, in essence, it's absorbing a large proportion of what I might call non-positive outcome actions, and what it's focusing on is shifting work away from activity towards thinking. And that's, let's be honest, that's where real impact comes. So in essence, what we're enabling talent and talent acquisition teams to do is actually become a true advisory council as opposed to a process. And I think that changes the dynamic with the organization.
So I want to come on to your recommendation in a minute, but first of all, I want to cover, like, my perspective on this is some companies, their active program is to eliminate headcount as much as possible. And that is an active choice, whether it's the right choice or it's the wrong choice. That's an active choice. And they maybe care less about the consultative elements of talent, and they just need people in the jobs. And that might be their corporate approach, whether it's to finance or it's to marketing or it's to talent acquisition. Whereas other organizations, they really really want to compete and win in the market, and they want every single % of additional performance enhancement. And what you're suggesting is that those companies that are wanting to go that way, they're the ones that will reallocate and upskill and look to point their TA teams at the advisory types of services.
Yes, but I think that's very true. But I think number one, how do I put this? The impact and explosion of AI at the moment. If you look at organizations, everyone's saying, "Oh, we need AI. We must have AI." I don't think at the moment there's a true understanding of why they need AI. What's the return on investment? What's the benefit? It's just, oh, we've got to have AI. It's a little bit like the internet bubble. But we've got a seismic shift in a period where the market is obviously not hugely buoyant. So at the moment, that competition for talent is not as relevant as it usually is. And when that then becomes the case, that then really underlines the impact of what a focused and human-led, but human interaction-led talent acquisition function can actually be highly important to the organization. Because at the moment, processes, speed, volume, placing people is probably the premise. Reduce cost is the premise. But I think organizations that are understanding that the shift might be from what I'd call execution to systems design, because you've got previously humans that are conducting those processes that can be automated. You've then got AI enabling bringing strategy probably into sharper focus. So when the strategy is clear, you've got clear defined roles, strong assessment, aligned stakeholders, AI accelerates that. So you then look at, okay, what does the new talent acquisition function look like? I don't think it's a case of necessarily losing jobs. I think it's a case of shifting skill set. It's going, in my mind, and this is quite a simplistic way of looking at it, but in my mind, it's enabling TA functions to maybe remember some of the skill set that existed when we all worked in agency years ago, when there was lots of competition, and we're obviously maybe working in contingent environments where you had to have that influence, that relationship that you built with your client, internal stakeholder in this case, and candidate was of paramount importance. And I think that then shifts that, what I'll call critical thinking, and shifts the shape of what a good recruiter or good TA professional looks like. It's not necessarily someone who is just fast at processes, can build or create strong signaling quickly. It shifts that dynamic, and I think it's going to shift the requirements that we have as TA leaders and talent leaders in the capability of our teams.
So with the new capabilities that we have because of AI and automation, do you think about it in the context of, say, volume hiring, maybe like white collar hiring, exec hiring? Is there a different way that we need to think about it, for if I'm crudely just split those three sort of
Yeah.
grades?
I think there is a differentiation in how AI is going to impact, if we look at those three subsets. From a kind of a huge volume hiring perspective, where AI is going to aid is it reduces those manual processes and tasks, and that is clear. Will that have impact on the size of teams in large enterprise organizations? Yes, it probably will. But you're then going back to my previous statement. Actually, what then becomes a strong recruiter is someone who understands how to use AI products, AI tools, someone who's probably well versed in prompts. So what they're doing is utilizing a tool to minimize their manual impact, sort of manual actions, but actually their judgment level then needs to increase. So again, it's redesigning what a strong talent partner looks like. I think if you look at the senior level of hiring, yes, AI is going to impact the ideals of how do we engage with, how do we identify. If we think about kind of the historic exec search firm, the power was in their research function. If I go back to before LinkedIn exists, research functions were enormous. You had organizations that built relationships over years and years and years. That with LinkedIn, that power reduced slightly, but still those relationships were important. With AI enabled, yes, we're going to have it's going to diminish even further. But at senior level hiring, it is all about the relationship. It's all about how you influence. It's all about how you engage. And it comes back to what I call signaling or storytelling. Unless you engage that target individual in the right manner and can, shall we say, for want of a better phrase, get their juices flowing, it doesn't matter what your process or system looks like. So again, it comes back to AI is not the silver bullet. It's an enabler. We still need that human interaction. And I know I'm kind of rabbiting on in parrot fashion about it, but my view is still that it's going to re-establish the skill sets that were required previously in the recruitment consultant.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. My personal belief is it's going to have a disproportionate amount of impact in the volume space and very limited impact on the exec level, and some impact in the middle. But let me finish off with one simple kind of question. So, in general, should talent acquisition think about AI as something that is exciting or worrying? I'll give you my answer is I think it's 70% exciting, 30% worrying. What about you?
I would concur. I think there is, where the worry comes, I'm going to call out something here. What AI does is visualize lazy talent acquisition. It's as simple as that. It brings it to the surface. It's that simple. And I think what it will actually do is enable, let's look at this in a particular way. So if we think about TA metrics, we've always thought about traditional metrics, time to hire, cost per hire, agency spend, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But all they tell us is how efficiently a recruitment process works, actually. That's it. What we need to do is create kind of more space for more meaningful insight, because then we become predictable, we can forecast, and with that forecastability, if there is a word, such a word, we then become more relevant to the organization, because we turn into a revenue, not revenue producing, but we can demonstrate true return on investment, and we become like a commercial function that we can actually sit there and predict the outcomes that we're going to deliver. So if we're then looking at time to productivity, quality, what else? Forecast capacity versus demand, it's hugely impactful. So my thought is what AI does is really provide the keys to the citadel in some respects to enable talent and TA to get a true seat at the table. Depending on organization and also depending on current global macroeconomic situations, different organizations will suggest that they have huge input and huge, what I would call, desire to understand what talent provides. And it's a plethora of different approaches, I think is the best way to put it. But with AI, what we can actually become relevant, because talent is the cornerstone of any successful organization. So my question is, why is talent acquisition and talent not treated like that? Because it is so important. Does this provide us the key to achieve that?
Very interesting question. I look forward to talking to you in a couple of days' time, and we'll go into that specific question in a bit more detail. But James, thank you very much for joining me today, sharing those insights. I found it really interesting. I agree with most of what you've said. In fact, I think I agree with all of it. But you've said a few things that I hadn't quite considered it in those terms before. So it's been enlightening, and I really appreciate your time.
Sounds good, Adam. I look forward to our next episode, sir.
Great.